I think the other thing that people don't talk about as much, but it's like what happened in California in the Palisades. It's the same reaction, right? And like you'll understand everything about a culture based on their reaction to like defining events. So the Mangione thing, everybody was making jokes on Twitter. That guy.
Just for people who don't know, this is a guy who went and assassinated a healthcare company.
Allegedly. CEO.
Allegedly?
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
He killed him.
Yeah.
In this video, we join guest Andrew Schulz as he sits down with the Triggernometry podcast. Andrew Schulz discusses capitalism and the dangers of some left-wingers that are consumed with envy. With that, let's watch Andrew Schulz rip the insane woke left.
You know, Francis and I love America. It's an amazing place. But do you think that's maybe where the other side of another coin comes in, which is the culture here is so obsessed with making money that people will do some pretty horrific shit as long as it makes business sense.
And it almost like feels justified. Right. We have a saying, I don't know if you guys have it there, but like it's just business.
Yeah, we don't have that saying.
No, we don't. No. But it's ridiculous saying like I could fuck you over, but like, hey, it was just business.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not just business.
No.
Like you and I built a relationship based on what I assumed were shared values. And then you did something that broke the trust that I had in you with those values. And I think it's really up. Yeah, there is a little bit of a disconnect. You know, we all call ourselves Americans and we're in this thing together, but sometimes it seems like we have no problem taking advantage of other Americans. And just like with the crypto rug pulls and all this kind of stuff, it's like, well, those are your countrymen. Those are the people that invested in your, and yeah, they invested it based on greed. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you're allowed to fuck them over. You know, maybe they had optimism about what you were about to offer them.
Yeah, well, you can be a really big fan of capitalism, but also recognize that there are extremes to it.
We, 100%. I think one of the big issues in America is, I was just doing the All In podcast, so I want to like credit them for this idea, but like, I think the reason why a lot of Americans feel like a lack of hope about their ability to be financially successful, is it comes from, I think like post global financial crisis. So like after, 2008, in order to like get the economy going again, I think the Fed dropped interest rates to like 0%. Yeah. So you could get money for nothing, right? And if you're somebody who's like financially literate, I'm not at all, but you get levered up, right? You take out as much money as you possibly can and you dump it into a recovering market that you know is going to go up. And I think a lot of Americans that were very wealthy did that. And then they saw insane gains in the stock market. The middle class that had like what we call like 401ks and Roth IRAs. I don't know if you guys have the same thing.
It's an interesting conversation because probably to a fault, I'm such a proponent of capitalism that maybe since I'm always singing its praises, I never think about the downsides of capitalism. You know, it's usually a conversation with some insane leftist about socialism would be better. And you're just like, what are you talking about? So you're just singing the praises of capitalism, but they're absolutely right. I am not well traveled at all, but the sense I get is that money is not as important in other countries as it is in the United States. And social media is a big piece of that, you know, people living beyond their means and presenting a lifestyle that they don't really live. And maybe sometimes they actually do live, but those are the rare cases. And then other people feeling like, what's wrong with me? I've got to keep up with the Joneses. And then, like they said, I don't know if it's that people feel entitled, but they loosen their principles a little bit and justify it with it's just business. Or if I screw this person over, if I do a crypto rug pull, hey, they're the ones that invested. You know, find every way to make yourself feel better that you didn't do anything wrong. You know, this was all other people's decision. That's just one example. But yeah, there are extremes in capitalism. And I've said this before when I say it, I always preface it with, I know I sound like a Democrat when I say wealth inequality is a real thing. But I think to have a full discussion about that, you kind of go back through the history of the death of the middle class. And now I think the disparity between the wealthiest in society and the poorest is larger than it's ever been in history. I mean, I'm not even looking at statistics. That just has to be true. And to a lot of people, having a lot of money and cars and the biggest house on the block and stacks of money is the ultimate goal. And money's important, but I think over a certain threshold amount, I don't know exactly what that is. It's probably more than the average American has, but over a certain threshold, you can pretty much do and have most of the things you want. You can take care of your family very comfortably. You can maybe leave some money for your family. Those are the things that are important to me. My whole point is money is absolutely important, but I don't think I'm speculating here. I think there's evidence that the amount of money that someone has does not correlate whatsoever with how fulfilled with their life they are, or just how happy in general they are. But in capitalism, we do celebrate people that are wealthy beyond belief. And all of us have had that thought of like, wow, what if that was me? And boy, I'd like to do that. And some people chase it their entire lives. And trust me, I'm far from John Rockefeller right now. I'm definitely chasing better income and lifestyle, but that's because it will allow me to accomplish other goals of my life. Let's get back to it.
But
We know what you mean.
right? They were, through these investment tools, able to get some access to that, so they went up a little bit, and then everybody else got left behind. I think it's very hard to believe in capitalism when it's not working for you. It seems to be working against you. Like all these people here, their wages didn't go up. They keep hearing how great the economy is. Like this shows you, and this is not to rag on the Democrats, but like it shows you how disconnected Democrats are from like actual working class people. They kept bragging about Biden's economy. They're like, Biden has the strongest economy. It's the most amazing. No. The stock market was good. The stock market does not reflect the majority of Americans. The majority of Americans don't even own a stock. They don't even know what the stock is. And what they're seeing is their elected officials going, the economy's great. And they're like, I've been making the same wage at Walmart and shit's getting more expensive. How can you tell me the economy is great? Right? And when you feel that, you just feel like the train got on the tracks and pulled away and left you behind. So then you start to have this like anti-American sentiment because America doesn't seem to be working for you. So one of the things that, it's not my idea, but like I think is very important is like you want Americans to be on board with capitalism. They have to feel the benefits of it. They have to be invested in capitalism. So I don't know if it's given every American 10 grand invested in, S&P 500 from the day they're born that they can't touch until they're 22. But I promise you have a very different sentiment about the stock market, about capitalism, about America, about CEOs. Like it's hard to hate Elon when your biggest stock holding is Tesla, right? Like all of a sudden you go, I kind of like this guy. He's doing a good job. Why don't you take it easy on him, right? When every American is invested in the success of American industry, you will have a very different relationship with American industry. But we've left far too many people behind. And I think as to what you guys are saying, we feel way too comfortable doing it. And we need to get rid of that.
Were you surprised with the Luigi Mangione case, the number of people who came out and were pro this dude?
I think that's
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
like a really important thing to pay attention to if you have a lot of money in America. I think the other thing that people don't talk about as much, but it's like what happened in California in the Palisades. It's the same reaction, right? And like you'll understand everything about a culture based on their reaction to like defining events. So the Mangione thing, everybody was making jokes on Twitter. That guy.
Just for people who don't know, this is a guy who went and assassinated a healthcare company.
Allegedly.
CEO.
Allegedly?
No,
I don't
he
know.
killed him.
Yeah, he killed him. I don't feel like we need to worry about libel on this one. But so he shot this guy, and then what happened in the Palisades is there were some fires that burned down an entire district, basically.
And the attitude was essentially, they have another house in Aspen. They have another house over here. Like, it's just rich people's houses. Who gives a
I see what you're saying.
And the sentiment is, what we were just talking about, is like there's a lot of people that are poor here, and they feel like the country has kind of let them just stay there as it pulled away and made all this money in crypto, or made all this money in the stock market, or made all this money on...
The American dream is not for them.
That's what they feel. So now when all those people that they believe, remember people are emotional, so it's like that they believe are the ones that made all the money on the stock market and made all the money in crypto, or they're the CEOs. Now that their houses got burned down and one of them gets shot in the head, they go, I don't give a f***. You didn't give a f*** about me. You let me sit here like an asshole while y'all took out loans for 0% and then made 22% back on the stock market. You never checked on me and saw how I was doing. Never told me I should get a loan.
And when you think about it, America, nobody does cults like you do cults in this country.
We do believe anything.
First, let me just say the Luigi Mangione thing. If you or anybody you know is one of the people that was applauding that piece of shit, there's really something wrong with you. We're talking about murder. We're talking about taking a human life. We're talking about kids that don't have a dad anymore. We're talking about parents who lost a son. How any other human being can't relate to what a tragedy that is a sickening thing. And we have free speech in this country, and you can say stuff like that. But usually when you say something that's so heartless and evil, like, I'm glad he killed that guy, usually people jump all over you. But this guy's raised tons of money in like a GoFundMe for a legal defense. And while a lot of sane, level-headed people are like, that's terrible to support this guy, there are a lot more people than I thought that are like, yeah, I see what you're saying. I see why you're happy that he killed that guy. I mean, as I'm saying this right now, I mean, this should be a real wake-up call about where the values of this country are. That's not the country I've known my entire life. It's really sickening. Anyway, let's wrap up the video.
Yeah,
You fucking love it.
you
We
love
do
it.
love believing.
But here's the point. You love believing. So if you've essentially ostracized these people from the American dream,
Yeah.
they're separated, they're angry, they're resentful, and guess what? They've got every right to be. You need to be
Absolutely.
really worried, particularly now that there's the internet where everybody can connect, that they're going to form their own cult and something quite dark is going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that happens all the time.
We want to hear from you. In the comments, I'd love to hear from all of you to, again, help educate me. What are some of the downsides of capitalism that you see, either that they mentioned or they didn't mention? And this isn't a question to say, yeah, capitalism's bad. I think it's the greatest system in the history of the planet. But with anything good comes bad too. You know, there are trade-offs with anything. What are some of the things you all think that are downsides of capitalism? I think it's really interesting to explore, especially for a lot of people that I assume most people watching this think capitalism's a pretty darn good thing. So from people that support capitalism and thrive in it and are grateful for it, I think it's good to reflect on what are some of the cons of it, and is there anything that can be done about it, or is it just some of the bad that we have to accept that comes with all the good of capitalism? Let me know in the comments. I'd be interested. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.